What is up? Welcome back to Drummers on Drumming, a podcast powered by Big Fat Snare Drum. This is part 2 of my conversation with Brendan Buckley and Gunnar Olsen. If you haven't listened to part 1, it's not essential, but we do so many funny callbacks, so I would recommend you do that. We start off the conversation jumping right back into Brendan answering my question of if he has any drummer nightmares. Then we get into the chunk of it all. I'm not going to say what the podcast is about because I'll just say from my perspective, talking to Gunnar and Brendan is like talking to two mentors. And so I loved being a fly on the wall. That was also part of the conversation. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I still love you. Bye.
I haven't played with an artist for a little while, and they call me up and they say, hey, could you come and do this gig with us? You know all the songs already. We're just going to do all the songs you did on the last tour. Oh, yeah, sure. I come there. I get there. We get on stage, and I look at the set list, and it's all songs I've never seen before. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know any of these. And they go, 1, 2, 3. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I've had those, yeah.
Yeah, my most recent one is I was at a festival. You'll kind of go wander off to watch some other bands. And then I lose track of time, and it's like 2 soccer fields away if you go to watch stage 1 versus stage 2. And it's like, I play in 5 minutes, but there's no golf carts and I'm stuck in a sea of people. And
they go on, you can see your band on stage starting without you.
And they sound really good.
We actually had that happen once. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but this is a good story. We had that once. We played a festival in New York City with Shakira. We rehearsed for a week for this festival. We were going on at 8 p.m. in this park. The background singer and the keyboardist, we had no dressing room for some reason. It was a festival thing. They're like, just hang out and we'll go on at 8. We've never gone on time with Shakira, as you know, the other night. We never go on time. So we always think 8 is a loose 8.
Sure.
8 is like, so be ready by 8. We'll probably go on at 8:15, 8:20. So they went to grab a drink across the street at a bar, with some friends. All our friends that came out, that live in New York, they all came out. They're hanging out. They're across the street. I'm hanging out on stage because I'm a little more of a nerd about punctuality. So sure enough, 7:58, I see Shakira on the side of the stage ready to go with her in-ears in. I'm like, what? We're going on time? What is this? And I say to Tim, the MD, I'm like, call the keyboardist. Call him now. He's like, no, he's here. I'm like, he's not here. Call him. So, and then they're like, ladies and gentlemen, Shakira. I'm like, oh my God. So she walks on stage. I run up on the drum set. The guitarist walks up. Our bassist shows up. Our percussionist shows up. He has no in-ears. And he's looking around like, where are my in-ears? And you hear 3, 4. And then we start this song, Whenever, Wherever, as a power trio. Just bass, drums, and guitar. We just start playing it like that. And I just start laughing because we rehearsed forever. And the half the band's gone.
Now you sound like a cover band at a bar.
Yes, we sound like a cover band at a bar. And I just think this is the best night ever. I'm laughing. This is great. And then sure enough, by the first chorus, all of a sudden I hear the background vocals come in and the keyboards come in. I look over and they're like sweating, all nervous. And then we played the rest of the set together.
Toilet paper on their shoe.
Yes. And then I asked them afterwards, what happened? They're like, dude, we literally were at a bar across the street and we heard do 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 da do 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 da, which is the opening riff to the song. And they're like, oh shit! And they had to run across the street and get into a festival and jump up on stage. I love it. I love moments like that.
That's
sounds
amazing.
Like a
they can even get in. Yeah.
That's how you know how you really talk to people, is when you need to get past someone.
Get out of my way.
Exactly. I'm playing with Shakira. How could you? She's playing right now.
That's a fabulous point, okay? But I need to get on stage. What piece of advice have you heard over and over again that turned out to be wrong, or at least wrong for you?
I tend to shy away from anyone that tells me there's one right way to do something. Anyone that says this is the right way to hold your drumsticks, every other way is wrong, or this is the right snare drum to use, or this is the right way to play this beat. I'm like, okay, I respect that, but I like finding examples of other ways to get to the same end result. I like seeing, 5 drummers that play entirely differently that all sound incredible. Sit differently, use the bass drum pedal differently, hold sticks differently. And I find that fascinating. And I don't like to think that there's only one way to do anything. I think we should all, as artists and drummers and musicians, just explore, use our curiosity. Feel free to change things up when you hit a roadblock. Avoid injuring yourself with bad technique, but, feel like, you can try different techniques. So I think in general, whenever I hear someone with a sales pitch that this is the only thing you need, or this is the right way to do this, or I'm like, I don't know about that. And so maybe that's an answer to your question. I don't know.
That's 100% an answer. I think it's an important answer too. What about you, Gunnar?
The one that just jumped into my mind, I feel like when I was younger, I feel like teachers were or elders who were telling you like what you're going to need to do to get gigs, kind of telling you kind of need to be able to like kind of do a little of everything. And I think it's useful to be able to kind of like fake a lot of genres, but the older I get and the more I like find my voice, I feel like I've locked into what I do well and what I feel the most like myself doing. And I don't want to be a jack of all trades. I want to like, sure, play with a lot of different artists, but I don't want to necessarily be able to play. Like, I think I went to music school, like I used to like kind of like mess with my head that like, I was obviously the kid that grew up loving rock and punk, and I was going to jazz school, right? So I always felt a little bit like a fraud when I'd play like a samba or like, even just like straight ahead jazz. Like I felt great in the big band. Big band was really fun, right? Setting up a whole fucking horn section. It's like the most like rock you get to be playing drum, like jazz. Like I love that. But I remember just feeling like a bit of a fraud and then I'd go play with like my punk band on the weekends and like feel like myself. And I was like, this is what I want to feel like. But when I think about what I'm going to have to do to become a professional musician, it was scary. I remember like being in music school and being like, well, what happens when I graduate? I just go and try to like find gigs. And what I did is like I graduated and like me and my buddies jumped in a van and we went on a tour that we just booked for ourselves. And
was this The Exit?
Yeah, it was my old band, The Exit. And we were in a van for 3 months and we were paying ourselves $10 a day. And we were sleeping like at a show. We would just say, hey, we need a place to stay. Like every night we'd stay like at some kid's house on a couch, on a floor. Ended up realizing most of the kids that invite you to stay at their house, usually like they have a nice house. Usually their parents are gone. Usually they're rich. Like occasionally you had to stay at the punk house, and then there's the party after the show. And like there's the people making out on the couch that you have to sleep on, and you're kind of like, get out of here. But for the most part, like hanging out with my best friends, I'm making the music I want to make. I had $10 in my pocket every day. So I was going to Taco Bell and maybe eating free pizza at the club. And I was like, wait a minute, I cracked the code. I'm a working musician. I don't have to go and play music that I don't care about to get paid, which was like my biggest fear of how do I become a professional musician? Now, I'm not saying that everyone has that luxury. And eventually I've been very fortunate. I've gotten to feel and sound like myself while making a living, which is like, whatever happens from here on out, like I've made it in my own eyes. Cause like, that's all I've ever wanted to do. But I feel like there's a bit of advice that people say you got to be able to play everything so you can like stay a working drummer. And I don't know. I feel like if you maybe put more effort into sounding like yourself and meeting people that you connect with, making your own music, like, I don't know. I feel like that might actually get you more gigs when you have your own sound rather than trying to be okay at a lot of different genres just to stay busy. But it's not always that simple. Like I realize like a lot of people don't have the luxury and like, so they're going to play church gigs, wedding gigs, whatever gigs. Like music is music. I still play wedding and corporate gigs, and it's some of the most fun I ever have. So like, I think whatever you need to do to pay the bills as a musician is still probably a little bit more rewarding than getting maybe a quote unquote day job. But there's parts of the music industry that feel like a version of the day job thing to me. Broadway's never been appealing to me because most of the time you're subbing, super high pressure, and if you fuck up once, you're probably not getting called back. It's just like, it's a whole other side of things where I'm like, there's nothing artistic about this. I'm doing a job and it's not appealing to me, but that's me. A lot of people get their own share at a Broadway gig, and maybe if I got my own share at a Broadway gig, it would be a different story and I could do what I want, but that's very rare, I hear. So the general mentality of like, you need to be able to play everything to be a working drummer I think is maybe a disservice to people that might not take the time to just find what they're really good at, you know?
It's funny you should say that because it makes me think that I don't play anything well. No, that I think
And that's the show.
yeah, there you go. No, I was thinking like when I was a lot younger, I was told that and I believed that and I practiced everything. So I was ready to read. I was ready to play any style of music. I was ready to play any scenario. I was ready to audition for any gig, classical music, Latin music, jazz music, rock music. But that was a long time ago. That was just when I was studying. And then when I got out, like you, I got in a van with a band and I went on the road and I'm like, this is a blast. This is what I want to do. This is so fun. I want to be with other musicians making music. I don't care about all that other stuff. I boiled it down to what I really want to do. But I still pursued studying different styles, not because someone was telling me to, because they're making me paranoid that I might fail an audition, just because I like
Right.
different styles of music. I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn this, or I'm going to practice this, or I'm checking this style out now. And it was, never for the intention of, I'm going to try to get a gig playing that music, death
Yes.
metal or whatever. I'm like, I just love the genre and I want to have 10% or 15% of what these masters can do in that genre.
Yeah.
And I just want to add that to my little bag of tricks. And what's cool about just treating it like that, like not like I have to master everything, but just check out everything and just grab a piece here or there. That really adds to your sound and adds to your style. And then what's weird is that sometimes you will get a gig kind of leaning in the direction of that style. And you're like, well, this is not my forte, but I do have a little bit of this together. And it's interesting how I totally agree with what you said, but I'm like, well, I think I started out as a kid doing that. And then I kept it going, but for my own reasons and my own interest, not because someone was telling me to.
Isn't that funny? Like I went to school for jazz and it just ended up feeling like a chore to practice and listen to it. 5 years later, I got really into a lot of jazz on my own, in a way that was removed from school.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish I felt this way when I was going to school for it, but that was also some of the reason I couldn't get fully into it or
Yeah,
something.
it's like when I was a kid, my mom would tell me to clean my room. I'm like, ugh. Then you grow up and you live in an apartment and you're like, man, my apartment's messy. I should probably clean it. And now you're cleaning it by choice, not because someone's telling you to, because, I should probably dust this. Because now you're an adult and it's your own choice and you're in charge of your own destiny. And with music and influences, it's not someone telling you what you have to check out. It's, what do I want to check out? What's interesting to me right now? That's where the flip happens.
Brendan, I had a question real quick. So one of my favorite parts of the show the other night, you came out and you were playing on what I told Ben, kind of like the Tito Puente, timbales, one cymbal, couple cowbells on a song, like a very Latin tune. I've always been fascinated by that style of drumming because it's so the opposite of drum set playing, because you're playing percussion, but it's always these fun offbeat hits, and there's such a style to it. And I was curious, my guess is that's a style of music you've studied at some point. Maybe I'm wrong, but I was curious with a song like that, because sure, a bunch of the songs we've heard them on the radio for years and it's kind of a pop thing. With a song like that, were you playing a recorded part? Were you playing, is that an MD specific thing? Let's turn this song into this vibe. My point was, I was curious on a song that's so style specific like that, were you learning a part and playing it, or were you approaching it with a very genre correct specific part? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Got me really excited. That's my point.
Yeah, well, thanks for saying that. That came about during rehearsals. So that song, we played on the last tour, but we played, if you remember, the first 30 seconds was more of an electronic version of that song. I was playing it. I was playing an SPDSX, on an SPDSX. And then that's the version we played on the last tour. And then during this rehearsals, they said, halfway through, we're going to kick into this new salsa arrangement. I'm like, what? And then they sent us the MP3. We checked it out. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's so different than the original. All right. I lived in Miami for 10 years. So I used to go out and see salsa percussionists play all the time. And I was in awe And I'm like, I don't know how they're doing all this cool stuff. I know basic patterns. These guys are the Vinnie Colaiutos of their instruments, congas, bongos, timbales. I was so mesmerized, and they're all so nice, and they would say, hey, come sit in. I'm like, no thank you. Like, come sit in. I'm like, no, please don't make me do that. But I would practice enough so I could sit in, but I never felt good. I always felt like it was such a downer, but they're always very welcoming, very like, come on, play a song. Cool. And I have a lot of percussionist friends who would always share with me, different styles of playing Latin music. So when we started rehearsing, we actually started rehearsals for this tour in Miami. So when this arrangement came about, I called up one of my friends, this drummer named Richard Bravo. I said, dude, can you swing by the rehearsal tomorrow morning? And I want to show you a song. So he came by, I bought him breakfast. We got together at 10 a.m. before everyone else showed up. I played him the song. He's like, oh, cool. And I'm like, could you play it down once? How would you play this song? And I just got to video you with my iPhone. He's so good. So he just played it once, like as if you were playing like a punk gig. He's like, cool. He played it once. And I'm like, that's going to be my foundation of how to play this song, is the way you just interpreted it. So I learned his parts, and then I learned how to kind of improvise a little bit within what he was doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I practiced timbales, but I moved to LA in 2004. So it's been a while. So it was really like dusting off the cobwebs. But now that's my favorite part of the set too. I love it. It's a lot of fun to play. And you're right. It's so backwards from playing the drum set. It's not kick snare oriented. It's all upbeats. Everything's on the upbeat. Everything's syncopated. Mm-hmm. So it takes a second to get into that groove. But once you do, it's so much fun. You know who actually can play timbales is Jeff Friedel.
Oh, really?
You wouldn't know that, but we talked about this. I've never seen him, but we've talked about timbales for a while because he played in a salsa band in like Arizona State University or something like that. So we've talked about this before. It's a really cool style of music. Yeah. But I am at a novice level. Thank you very much. But yeah, there are guys. My friends are like wicked players. I'm just getting by.
Well, I've also found, like, I remember when I was in high school, I went to like a performing arts school, and there was this young kid who played congas, and he knew all the claves and stuff. He would show me patterns and try to like teach me about the different claves and like a few different patterns you could play on the drum set. And he would just quickly be like, no, that's wrong. Not like from a place of like judgment. It just feels like in that culture, there's these things you gotta do, and I mean, I guess you could say that for a lot of music, but it made me think like, I will record congas on your record at a session, but there can never be video of it. There can never be someone else in the building that knows how to play them, because I respect percussionists. I respect people that play hand drums. It's a different instrument, and I'm happy to do it. If you want me to do it in a studio, just like be aware that I am basically playing a different instrument. Yeah, that was the highlight of the show for me. So I'm glad. It's cool to hear that story, because I was like, man, he sounds fucking legit on this song.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a little passion project, because I love Latin percussion, and living in Miami, I was surrounded by it, but still, I don't get to do it as much as I play drum set. Imagine playing drum set 95% of your life and percussion 5% of your life. The skill level's going to start leaning in one direction, right? I wish it were 50-50, but it just isn't.
I want to go back to something Gunnar said that I think is important for at least me to hear, is that if you're going to double down on not being a jack of all trades and really just focus on, this is who I am, this is my voice behind the instrument, you have to understand that you have to double down on networking people in like-minded areas. Because maybe you guys don't agree, but if you're going to be you got to make sure that you're cultivating a community where that does excel, or else you're going to kind of be a fish without water for a lot of people that are looking for other things. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It goes back to even what I said earlier, was there's not one right way to do things. Some guys excel at being a jack of all trades. Some guys excel at having only one thing they do, but they're so good at it and they're known for doing that thing that everyone just says, oh, get that guy. He's so good at this. And so there's two directions you can go in, and they both work.
And I wrote down the word roadblock, because I think at one point, Brendan, you mentioned getting over a roadblock. But do you guys remember, or maybe you're dealing with it right now, but the most recent roadblock that you've been like, I really need to address this about my drumming? While you're thinking about it, I've realized that it's less my playing when I listen back to myself on, say, an iPhone recording, if I'm just trying to get something. It's less my timing. I think it's in my hands. I don't necessarily love the tone I get out of hi-hats. I've been really focused on that. I've played a million hi-hats, with being flying all over the country and the world and getting backline kits. I've played every possible option of hi-hat probably. And it's a hands thing. It's a looseness thing. And it's been something that I realized that's the thing I hate when I listen back to myself. So I've been really trying to get a looser, I'm very right hand heavy is what I'm trying to say.
Do you watch other drummers and see certain guys who have a hi-hat sound or hi-hat technique that you think, I like that. I'd like to add a little bit more of that into my style. Or you're just self-analyzing?
It's really just self-analyzing. I love like Alan White on those Imagine records, like those early John Lennon records. His hi-hat is so nice. Jim Gordon's cymbal work in general he cannot make a cymbal sound bad. I'm not trying to compare myself to Brian Blade, but if I could ever make a cymbal sound like Brian Blade, but I'm just kind of cruising, chicken's done.
So what I'm hearing right now is that you're impressed by guys who have more of a jazz touch.
Yeah.
This is fascinating to me because I think the hi-hat is a very underexplored instrument in its own. We just bash hi-hat and eighth notes on there, and we don't really explore it. Jazz guys used to explore it as an instrument. Whether you're playing the top of it with the tip of your stick, or you're playing the side of it with the shank of your stick, whether it's fully open, kind of halfway open, totally closed. Some guys, you've noticed that if you put pressure on the hi-hat, it actually pitch bends a little bit, like which is like a little annoying sometimes in the studio.
Yes.
And there's all sorts of things you can do. So I will sometimes play the same groove over and over again, and I'll go through all of those different permutations till I find something that feels good to me. How open should it be? What part of the stick am I using to strike the hi-hat? What part of the hi-hat am I hitting? And then you just experiment with that. Am I doing it more with the back of my hand facing up or my thumb facing the ceiling? Which one feels better for this groove? And it could change for the next song and the next song. I love going down this rabbit hole.
Me too.
And you said a looser touch. So then you could say, do I need to grip the stick or loosen it, and what digits am I holding the stick with? I think you can go down this for months and months, and I think it's not a roadblock. It's almost like you found something to work on.
Sure.
And you should be happy about it. I found a new thing I'm going to work on.
For sure. Yeah. I guess the roadblock is like there's something about my playing that I don't like the sound of, and I've been really focused on. It's less chops for me as I get older. The things that excite me the most is when someone can pull something really musical out of the drum, whether it's a really simple part that fits it or if it's just a tone. It's less about acrobatics. And so right now, the hi-hat's been my thing. I think the hi-hat changes the vibe more than anything. It's the simplest thing you can do if the producer's like, this isn't working. Instead of switching up the whole groove and starting from scratch, do something different on the hi-hat. And there's a good chance they're like, oh, that's it. A lot of drummers just go, okay, they hate everything I'm doing, start from scratch. But there's a lot of little different things. At least that's where I go.
There's so much hatred. There's a lot of internal dynamics you can play with too, like between your left hand and your right hand. Try to over-exaggerate like a super soft right hand and a really loud backbeat, like crazy extreme, and then bring it back to 50-50 and then go splashy hi-hat, soft snare, and then see if you can go back and forth between your limbs and keep a groove, and then you'll have that volume knob going on in your body where you can kind of mix yourself if you don't think you sound right. And I think what you're saying again about Brian Blade and tone and everything, you listen to drummers from, I don't know, the 50s, 60s, and the early part of the 70s, and I think they all knew how to hit with more of a jazz touch with like the acorn tip of the drumstick, and they play the snare drum that way, the toms, the hi-hat, the ride cymbal, the crash cymbals even. I've seen Bernard Purdy hit crashes where he's just doing a ting with the tip of his stick. I'm like, you can hit a crash that way?
Yeah.
I thought you had this. I think it's fun to take all of your hardest hitting recordings that you like to play along with and do it with that touch and see how awkward it is and be like, oh my God, this is so crazy. But then teach yourself to be able to go full rim shot on everything and then only tips of the drumsticks on everything and go back and forth. Do like 1 minute of one, 1 minute another, and see if you have the ability to go back and forth. That's a really good thing for your sound and your touch, to be able to play only in the center of the snare drum, only rim shots, only tip of the stick on the ride cymbal, and only shanking the bell, and see if you have the ability to go back and forth. And that really improves your ability to pull tone out of the drum, I think.
This episode is brought to you by Big Fat Snare Drum, specifically the Big Fat Snare Drum Bargain Bin. We're talking brand new heads that aren't scratched or dented. We just have too many, so get them for cheap. We've also dropped some new full coverage textile cloth designs, and our Pick 3 bundles are now live. It's an easy way to outfit your whole kit with many of our most popular heads. Just choose one of these 3 size sets, 10, 12, 14, 12, 14, 16, or 13, 14, 16. Go check out all of that at bigfatsnaredrum.com. What roadblocks were you guys thinking of while I use my fidget spinner?
Is that a fidget? I thought that was one of those things that you used to cut off the end of a cigar.
Oh, yeah. Well, that sounds good now.
I always find things that I need to work on every week. But let me think of one that pops in the mind. I'm not a super pro at like double bass drum work. Like I'm not like Meshuggah level, but I love playing double bass drum. I do. I love it just as a concept. I love the symmetry of it. I love getting your right hand and left hand to be equal, and I like having your feet kind of being able to do the same thing. So I'll sit in the dressing room with a double pedal, and I'll do doubles like do, 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 do. I'm never doing that on a kit, but I do that just to torture myself in the dressing room. And one of the things I realized a couple years ago was that my feet are very different in the way they hit a pedal, because I grew up playing a kick pedal and a hi-hat, and my right foot had a lot more dexterity. It could play beater in, beater off. It could play heel up, heel down. It did all this stuff. My left foot just stomped. It just went stomp, 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 stomp. Sometimes I would hold it down. Sometimes I would bounce it up and down. But that's all my left foot knew how to do. There was no ankle dexterity in there. So then when I started taking double pedal a little more seriously and realizing that I could not flick my left foot the way I can flick my right foot, it was like epiphany. I'm like, whoa, my God, that's what's so bad is like I would top out in speed because I was doing stomp, 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 stomp with both of my feet, not flick, 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 which is all the really good guys have great ankle dexterity. I practice that all the time now. I just sit around and I just do double pedal patterns, but real light and really loose, and to try to get my left foot to have the same kind of, I guess, finesse that my right foot has.
So I've never seen a tutorial on what to do with a double bass. I've never tried it. So this, maybe what I'm about to ask is like, yeah, everyone does this bend, but maybe not. When I'm doing like just eighth notes, do you guys lead with the left foot on the downbeat, or would you do the right foot?
I actually do both.
Okay, because I always go left foot because I'm so used to having my left foot stomp on the quarter notes when I'm playing a groove. And so playing right, left, right, left, right, left, it feels fucking weird to me, and I get off. So when I'm doing like the fast stuff, it is left foot lead.
That's cool. That's cool. You're probably in the minority there, but yeah, I've seen people do it that way. I try to do both so I can kind of have both together. It's even more apparent when you get into all those like 80s bass drum shuffles. Those.
Well, that's what I was saying, like the Hot for Teacher beat. How would you play that, Brendan? Would you lead with right or left?
I've practiced it both ways, and I think I sound better when I lead with my left. When I go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. But I do practice it right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left also, just to try to have both. I was talking about this with someone just the other day, that even if you don't like that genre of music or any of those genres of music, and even if you never foresee yourself ever bringing a double pedal to a gig in your entire life, I still think it's worth investing in one to have in your practice kit at home, because I think it makes you sit really well. Like you balance really well on your throne when you're playing a double pedal. You can't lean on a closed hi-hat. You actually have to kind of balance on your butt cheeks more. And then it helps keep your whole body more symmetrical, even, balanced. You can't lean too forward when you play a double pedal because the weight over your thighs kind of messes with things. So you wind up sitting more properly. So I think it's a great practice tool, even if you're never going to add it to your live gig.
Well, and I saw a video of Steve Gadd talking about him yet again. I think he was talking to Rick Beato. He's like, the main reason I had it is just for the ending big ensemble things, to like just go crazy. There's just one more gear that you can put into at the end of songs, but he doesn't really incorporate it that much into his playing, as we all know.
I heard this crazy recording. Do you know a drummer named Tos Panos?
No.
He's an amazing drummer that lives in LA. Sick drummer. But I was hanging out with him one night and he showed me, have you ever heard this Jim Keltner recording of him playing double kick drum? I'm like, No, please show me.
Yeah, no.
He had this like live board tape of what was the band he was in the late '80s? He was in this all-star band. I think it's called Little Village, and they had like a pop album deal and stuff. And so it's a live record from them, and it's Keltner, and he's playing all these super cool double kick pattern parts, but very unorthodox, like do 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 ga do 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 ga do ga zigga the boot do ga do do. Like things that are, you can almost do it with one foot, but you can't. But they're not like, it's not that. It's like they're regular grooves, but there's one extra note that he throws in. It's so slinky, so musical. And I'm like, holy cow, this is another way to approach having that, is like you play the grooves you normally play and just add one extra note that you wouldn't be able to do. Like a do 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 ga goo goo ga do 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 ga, just to add some spice to your groove. I'm like, man, once again, Jim Keltner being incredibly musical and using something to his taste, not the way other people do it. That made me think there's validity to a double pedal, even if you're not a death metal drummer. You can use it in very creative ways.
You're 100% right.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I ever played double pedal was kind of like within the first 4 or 5 years of playing. And my favorite bands were like Metallica and Primus. And the way Tim Alexander played double kick was really exciting to me. It was kind of what you were just singing almost. It was like you could almost fake all of it with a single pedal, like 3-note flourishes, or like the end of My Name is Mud, where it's like big triplets bouncing off a big like gong drum. It's funny because so my Roadblock was also a kick pedal thing. And it was last year I was on the tour Puscifer did with Primus, of all bands. I also filled in for a Perfect Circle when Josh went to do Foo Fighters at the time. And there's one Perfect Circle song that has just like, it's a minor little triplet flourish. And then there's another song called Weak and Powerless where the kick snare part is and it's like you hear it, you're like, oh, that's a cool beat. It was at like 152 or something, and just the way my mechanics worked, I sounded really good playing it from like 130 to 140 or 160 to 170. But 150 to 162, I got to this weird like, when you kind of just like naturally have your ankle up and your foot can kind of start to like naturally bounce.
Yeah.
I was getting to this weird thing where like it was just in this little nebulous spectrum where I wasn't getting natural extra bounce to it. So I had to like push in a different way. I just sounded really bad at it. And I was like freaking out. And I was telling Ben this story. I probably told on this podcast, but like I went out and got a different pedal. I was changing my seat height. And I ended up getting like the yips like for a couple of weeks. So like then I would just play like basic 2-4 grooves, and my foot was like, I was starting to like worry about playing. I was so in my head about it. I couldn't play a simple beat for like a week or two.
Yeah.
And eventually I got past it. And then the funniest part was I finally played it on that tour. I was playing it on his kit, and I've always played kind of like 14-inch depth kick drums. And his kick on that tour was a 23 by 18. And so it's just a way longer kick drum. And something about all that air, I showed up to sound check. I hadn't even played the song in 2 weeks because like we did he was on the first half of the tour, so I was jumping in. So it wasn't even like I was getting to, I basically would watch him play knowing like, oh, in 2 weeks I'll step in, but I wasn't playing with the band in that time. So it was a weird situation, like where I knew the songs. I came into tour really rehearsed, but like I didn't get to play for 2 weeks. And like, so I remember like we had a really short sound check before my first show. And I sat down the kid. I remember thinking like, oh God, this fucking song. And I just started playing it, and it was so much, enough time had passed that I kind of like dropped my hang up with it. But it was also 10 times easier to play on the way his kick drum was set up, with however his pedal was, the depth of that kick. And I realized, oh, like that's why this beat came to him, because like it's easy for him to play. And like it just wasn't easy to play on my setup and just like my mechanics. And it was like, thank God. Cause I was like, I don't know what to fucking do. You know, like it made me realize like, obviously every drummer sets up in such a different way, but it made me realize like, oh, the way a drummer sets their kit up enables them to play the way they play, which is such an obvious thing to think of.
I don't think I've ever sat behind a kit of another drummer's drum set and it felt good. I always have to tweak something, and sometimes I'll sit behind a drummer's kit and it's like, either you don't know how real drums are supposed to feel because this is chaos, or it's just, chalk it up to everyone's body's different. But yeah,
I think that's an amazing thing about the drum set as an instrument is that, I mean, if you pick up a violin and you play it, I don't play violin, but I'm sure if a violinist picks up a violin and then they pick up another one, it's kind of the same. Mm-hmm. They might have their favorite, this Stradivarius, whatever, but the violin is a violin. A drum set is whatever you want it to be. Like a tuba is a tuba. A drum set is whatever you want it to be. However many snare drums you want, wherever you want to put them, however many pedals you want. You want one tom, you want 16 toms, you want your crashes flat, you want them angled, you want them high, you want them low. There's the rack toms horizontal, the rack toms facing you. Things like how far is the seat from the kick drum and the snare drum? How far back, or how much are you over your kit? Or how high is your snare drum stand? All that stuff is how you started playing whenever you started playing and how you've evolved since you started playing. And then you sit down on someone else's kit, and that was their journey from when they started at the age of 13 or something till now. So that's incredible. Like no one really said, this is the right height for a snare drum, or this is the right distance from your kick pedal to your throne. It's just whatever you want. I think that's kind of cool. And even tuning, there is actual notes that your instrument is supposed to be tuned for in other instruments. Ours are like, somewhere around here is good. I want my floor tom to go pow, and I want my snare drum to go pa, and that's it. That's that. You're just. I'm in the ballpark. I mean, people that sit on my kit, I can look at them and they're uncomfortable. I almost designed my drum set so no one can sit on it because I'm kind of lanky. Well, I think maybe all three of us are, but I have I don't like being claustrophobic on the kit, so I make everything kind of far away. So I actually have to stretch and reach for things. There's nothing nearby. You have to reach for everything. And I grew to like playing that way. So then when other people sit down, they're like, I see them want to pull everything in like 8 inches, like hi-hat, crash, ride. They start pulling everything in. I'm like, that must be because I think I just set everything up really far away. I like the space and the openness of not being crowded. Yeah, I think I've sat on a lot of people's kits, and same thing, Ben. I'm like, oh my God, how does he hit the snare drum like this? I almost have the opposite about the tuning, though. Sometimes I'll sit on a friend's kit, and I'm like, dude, your toms sound great.
Yes.
My toms are garbage. Or that man, I love the way you tune your snare drum. And I'm like, I always think like the way other people tune is so much cooler than the way I tune. And then I try to do it on my kit, and I always revert to the way I tune because it's comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Like sonically, even the feel of the bounce of the sticks, the way I tune it is my preference. But I'm kind of attracted to the way other people tune their drums. I'm like, ooh, that's really nice.
Yeah. Same.
Tempted by the fruit of another. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yep.
No, I 100%. Every one of my friends' drum set sounds better than mine. The statement, not that I agree with it, but it was from Instagram. If you're not willing to turn yourself into a brand, whatever that means, don't expect to make a living off music. What are your perspectives on that?
I don't agree with that. I see the point of that statement because branding and marketing and having an image are important, but I don't believe in the finality of that statement that if you don't invest in your brand, you won't make a living playing music. I don't agree with that because I just know too many fantastic drummers that are not at all interested in self-promotion, and they work constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They just work because they're insanely good at playing the drums, and everyone loves the way they play the drums, so they just get called over and over again to be in bands, to go on tours, to make records, whatever it is. And none of that came from their marketing.
Would you consider Tosh the drummer? We can all agree he's an incredible drummer. Would you consider him having a brand, like him and of himself? Is that his brand or just him being authentic?
Yeah, it's a brand. Because, I mean, a brand in this case is a constructed identity. It's a conscious identity that you're promoting. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that word. It's not a ick word. It's an important word. If you want to promote something, I want to promote myself as this type of drummer or that type of drummer. That's fine. And that is actually helpful. It's helpful for people to be able to associate you with something. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's the heavy metal guy. That's the shredder. That's the really great guru teacher. That's the really great Americana drummer who hangs goat nails to his ankle. There's all sorts of things like you can.
Seen.
Yeah. Oh my God. But that can't hurt. But I just don't think it's necessary. I think it only helps. I don't think it's necessary.
I've definitely been thinking about a little of this recently. I was talking to you about it in the car, Ben, that it's a really weird time right now to be an artist. Like, I consider myself an artist and not just a drummer. You know, I make music. I want everything I do to kind of fall under one umbrella, right? Like, I play with Puscifer, I make my own music, I do whatever, I do sessions. I kind of, at the end of the day, want everything I do to kind of feel like it makes sense with me. And there was a time in my life where it felt like, oh, I'm getting like bigger credits on records and I'm going on tour with this band. But if someone saw my Instagram, will they know what to make of me? I remember having that thought like in the 2015, 16, where like Instagram was starting to take off, that like the drum community was kind of, and I remember thinking like, oh, if like someone sent my name to like Katy Perry and she just went to my Instagram, like, would that make sense? Would it make sense if like Queens of the Stone Age saw my, like just like I would step back and just wonder about stuff like that. And then over time I stopped caring about that stuff. But I do think I see a person like Tosh, or like there's people that like talk at you on their camera. Like when you go to Instagram, it's like, hey, what's up? They're saying, hey guys, like I just got a new package from Remo, or like there's the people that do that. And like, I would just never do that. But I'm realizing the people that succeed in that kind of, they're almost a brand. It's the people that feel comfortable doing that. But my thought with that is I think it's a really interesting time, because I feel like as an artist, it's very easy to like feel almost like you don't want to come across as cringy or like do something that isn't natural to you. But I think you also need to kind of like scream from the rooftops like what you're doing and tell people. Every day there's more and more things that are blocking your information from getting to them. Every day 400 new records come out. So like if you're a band releasing a record, it might feel annoying to like post about it every week for a month, but like you probably have to. Now, how you choose to do that is up to you. If you want to like go and try to make like a weird like TikTok video or a cool TikTok video, I don't know. I don't have a fully formed thought here, but I have been thinking about this a lot recently, because I have a bunch of music I've made over the years that I want to start releasing. And it's like, okay, so a lot of people know me from playing with this one band or this and that, and I've just been thinking about like, how do I, when it's time to release this music, how do I do it in a way that feels like it makes sense with my general identity? And like, how do I go about it? Like, am I going to be posting once a week? Am I going to like, I'm not going to like start talking to my phone and saying, hey guys, but like, I also want to like connect with people that might not.
I want that so bad.
But I also want.
I'm going to do one of those as soon as we get off the phone. I'm going to do this.
Yeah,
hey guys, I just got done talking to Ben and Gunnar.
What is up?
We should all do one that we can post to like promote this episode. But my point is like, there's nothing wrong if you're comfortable doing a video like that. I am not, but I'm also thinking like, well, how do I like out from the rooftops that like I have music out, and that I want it to get to like, I don't want it just to be like music that like drummers hear. I want it to be music that like music lovers hear, right? I don't know. I've been thinking about it more recently. That sweet spot between brand and artist. I don't know. It all comes down to like, I think just like being authentic. Like when you said Tosh, like I met him recently. He's always been really cool. And he is who he is. He's very authentic. It never comes across like he's trying to like, I mean, I don't keep current tabs with him at all times, but like, yeah, his videos make it onto my Instagram a lot. And he's always playing with a cool new artist. And like, he's hitting the drums like a young man can, it's like, I used to hit the drums that hard, and eventually I had to learned a different way to do it because I wasn't going to be able to keep doing it for a long time. But he doesn't have that problem right now. So it's like, yeah, man, go fucking ham in Brazil with Lady Gaga. And like, he's authentic. So, I mean, it's like, I think if you can be authentic, you can be as cringy as you want.
Yeah, you have to really ask yourself, who am I? I don't have to be someone else. I want to be the best version of myself, not the C- version of someone else. So who do I want to be? How do I want to be perceived? If I want to be perceived as a salesman, okay, I'm going to go down that route. If I want to be perceived as an artist, that's another thing. If I want to be perceived as super diverse, that's cool. If I want to be perceived as very focused on my style and what I do, that's another thing. And the internet now, I mean, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, that is our resume now. Someone wants to know about you, they just look up your name and they find stuff and they use that as your resume. So what do you want them to find? Do you want them to find a bunch of videos of you saying, hey guys? Or do you want them to find some live videos of you performing with an artist? Or I take photos of street art all the time and graffiti and things. And that's what I do. And I don't care if it has nothing to do with my career. I'm just like, this is stuff I do when I go for a walk. I don't know. I think everyone should figure out what they want to do and how they want to be perceived. There's not one style of food out there. There's not one style of actor out there. You have your Daniel Day-Lewis's and your Jack Blacks, and they're amazing. And you don't confuse the two. So I think there's different ways to play the drums and different ways to even be perceived as a drummer. And I think we should lean into that, embrace that and almost enhance that.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using iZotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at iZotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye.